Well, in case you missed it this morning, let's review those export sales numbers that we've been talking about all morning. They were big. They were large. Let's take a look first at the weekly export sales data that came out from USDA. Corn, 1.16 million tons sold last week. Soybeans, 1.08 million tons. That's a weekly total. A week ago, soy meal, 193,500 tons. Soy oil, 2,600. And the wheat at 354,300 tons. Grain sorghum, 139,000. Upland cotton, look at that, 439,700 running bales. And the rice at 36,000 tons last week. But then overnight, that overshadowed the weekly numbers when it comes to soybeans. Look at that. Soybeans, 1.044 million tons sold overnight to China. And soybeans, 662,500 tons to unknown destinations. You add those together, and I mean, you're talking 1 2/3 million tons that were sold overnight. Remember, last week we only sold 1.08 million. So it overshadowed that, and yet the market fell on its face when we opened up this morning. Let's see if it's rebounding yet. Let's go to the quotes provided by bar chart. So here we go with the corn. We have December 3 1/4 lower at 472 3/4. On the soybeans, right now you have January down 9 1/4 at 1356 1/2. It still hasn't rebounded yet. All right, let's move on and check out the wheat in Chicago first. December down 10 1/4. 582 is our last trade. Going to Kansas City, December down 9 at 646. And in Minneapolis, we have the spring wheat there, now trading 6 lower at 729 1/2 per bushel on December. And cotton, it's rebounding, and it's getting a little help from the weekly export sales data, apparently. December now 209 points higher at 76.98 cents per pound, but boy, it's got a ways to go to get back up to where it was a couple of weeks back. Well, we are honored to have Ted Seifried with us. He's with Zaner Ag Hedge. He happens to be on the road today, but Ted, always good to visit with you about the markets. Lots to chew on today. Had excellent export sales data, but the markets are selling off anyway. And then you have this little government report coming out in a little over an hour from right now. I don't know if that's scaring people away or what. What's your take on this?
Well, Marlon, I like to say I'm not big on cliches, but I guess I feel like I tend to use them a lot. And so today I would call that buy the rumor, sell the fact, right? We've been talking about for the last few days that there were these bigger Chinese sales that were going to be coming through, that we're going to be seeing them soon. We saw some yesterday, some pretty decent ones yesterday. The big ones came today, and our 6 day running total, just under 3 million metric tons at 2.983 million metric tons to China and unknown destinations. Hey, this is great. This is finally the fruition of what we had when the Chinese delegation came to, not far from where I'm sitting currently, Des Moines, and signed their agreement for 5 million metric tons. Well, hey, there's 60% of it there. Good deal. Now, as you say, we do have a WASDE report coming out here. I wonder if this is going to be a big deal or not. Obviously, we're going to look at yields first. And in my opinion, I think soybean yield might be the one that really steals the show. If there's any big changes there. So that's what I'll be looking at first.
Do you think the growing season weather in South America will just trump anything that comes out in the report today anyway?
That's kind of where I was going with that, Marlon. If we have a neutral report or something that's pretty much as expected, very small changes, nothing big, then yes, we will immediately go back to looking at South American weather. But this report does have the possibility or potential to show us some bigger changes, unexpected changes on the yield side of things that would trickle down through the rest of the balance sheet, and that could take center stage. But like I said, neutral report, back to South American weather.
Okay, we'll come back in a moment and we'll pick up where we left off. We'll talk a little livestock on the other side of these messages. Come on back. Okay, now as we switch over to our livestock side here this morning, it's interesting to note the washout that's occurring here in the cattle complex. Tell you what, it's like this thing, the foundation is crumbling apart here this week. Let's look at live cattle futures provided by bar chart right now. And even though we had decent weekly export sales on live cattle, whoa. I mean, look at December live cattle down $2.92 at 176.47. And yikes almighty, February down 307 at 176.40. I mean, they are big time falling to pieces on the live cattle market here this morning. Meanwhile, on the feeder cattle side, wow, throw some cold water on that thing. You have January down $5.37 at 227.40. And March down $4.80 at 230.20. I mean, they are just taking big bites out of this cattle market in fell swoops here. On the lean hog trade, you have December actually 70 higher now at 72.20. You know, we opened up mixed, then it sold off and it went lower, and now it's starting to rebound. Apparently, it's given up trying to follow on the cattle. We have February now 65 higher at 75.50. So the only one that's unchanged is May on the lean hogs. Everything else is, roughly 50 to 67 higher right now. Let's go back to Ted Seifried here and try and pick this thing apart. This cattle market, this is looking kind of dire on the charts.
Yeah, no, we don't like this. And so basically, I think what's happened here, Marlon, is that, you know, the managed money, the funds, they've decided that nobody's going to eat beef again forever. Ever again. I mean, I hate to sound facetious, but you know, when there is a herd mentality, and we had that herd mentality as they were getting into the long side of the live cattle and feeder cattle markets for so long. Well, when they go running for the doors, they do it in a hurry. And you have days like yesterday where we try to bounce and you have some optimism, some hope, and then you go ahead and you crush that with what feeder cattle are doing today. What a really nasty looking chart. Now, the only thing I can say is that we are getting really very oversold. Hopefully, we can find some footing here at some time in the relatively near futures. I would suggest that fundamentals haven't changed as dramatically as what the charts are suggesting. But you know, when you have these nasty corrections, they kind of overdo themselves, I think. The bigger problem that I have is in live cattle. Now we're trading below 200-day moving average, and if we have a solid close below that, oh no, then we have to look for our next level of support, which doesn't come for about another $10. So I don't really like the look of where we are here today. I would really like to see some sort of reversal and bounce back, at least towards unchanged. Doesn't have to be positive on the day, but some sign that, hey, maybe we're trying to find some footing. And again, the best thing I've got going on right now is saying that we're really oversold. Okay,
well, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Ted, for all the information today, and safe travels to you. I know you're on the road. Ted Seifried with us. He is with Zaner Ag Hedge. He's located in Chicago. He's based in Chicago. Not there today. He's on the road.
He's on the road, and I'm glad to see he made his bed.